Here are the top stories for today, June 26, 2019. President Duterte expresses support for charter change over pushing for a federal government. The administration is hopeful that the Freedom of Information Bill would be passed in 2020. Defense officials study the possibility of lifting martial law in Mindanao. And the Philippines joins South Korea in paying tribute to the veterans of the Korean War.
Good day, I am Miguel Hill and welcome to the PNA Newsroom. President Rodrigo Duterte on Tuesday afternoon said he will no longer insist on pushing for federalism to solve the over-concentration of powers and resources in the national government. More on this from Benj Bondok.
President Rodrigo Duterte said he would still prefer to make changes in the 1987 Constitution but did not elaborate what he meant. On January 18, Duterte said he did not necessarily want to change the entire charter but make a few economic provisions in the Constitution. Malacanang, however, said that this did not mean that Duterte is abandoning his push for federalism. But on June 10, Senator-elect and former presidential aide Christopher Bongo bared that Duterte has accepted that a shift to a federal system of government may not happen within his term. While the House of Representatives has already crafted its own draft federal constitution, the Senate has repeatedly said that federalism is not among its priorities. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Benj Bondok.
The Department of National Defense is consulting with the Armed Forces of the Philippines over the possibility of lifting martial law in Mindanao. This after Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte called for the lifting of martial law in Davao City due to the improved peace and order situation in the area. Department of National Defense spokesperson Arsenio Andolong said there are other places in Mindanao that are also peaceful and with no signs of conflict. He added that the Defense Department agrees with the lifting of martial law at the earliest possible time. However, a complete validation and assessment by the security sector and local leaders is needed before this can be proposed to President Duterte. Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana earlier told the Supreme Court in February that they could recommend the lifting of martial law in Mindanao this July if the Human Security Act is amended. Meanwhile, East Mincom is open to the lifting of martial law in Davao City. East Mincom Commander Lieutenant General Filimon Santos said the insurgency situation in Davao has already improved and the formerly NPA-infested Paquibato district has been cleared. He said security assessment in Mindanao still continues as some areas with communist and terrorist activities are likely to remain under martial law. The Department of Interior and Local Government in South Cotabato is pushing for the creation of a special task force that will sustain peace and development in the province. Acting DILG Provincial Director Michelle Viejo said on Tuesday that the move is in line with the national government's whole-of-nation approach. She said they have already crafted an action plan that seeks to curb the rebels' atrocities while recognizing that the insurgencies and other armed conflict are not only military and security concerns. The local task force will be composed of concerned government agencies, local government units, and civil society groups. In connection with the initiative, Lieutenant Colonel Jones Otida of the Army's 27th Infantry Battalion urged LGUs to prioritize the conduct of more outreach activities to areas that are prone to armed conflict. He, however, noted that the entire province remains generally peaceful and the activities of the New People's Army have been affected by the declining support of residents. The Philippine National Police questions the source of the latest data from the United Nations on the number of drug-related deaths in the country. More on this and other news around the metro from Janice Cabe.
The PNP is disputing the source of the data of the United Nations on the number of deaths in the government's war on drugs. In its report, High Commissioner for Human Rights Michelle Bachelet stated that about 27,000 have died in the drug war as of March 2019. PNP spokesperson Bernard Banach said this is different from the PNP's estimate of about 5,000 who died during legitimate police operations. Banach said it is unfair to add into the number of deaths from unrelated crimes such as homicide and murder. Nevertheless, the PNP continues to welcome foreign observers to scrutinize the campaign against illegal drugs. Meanwhile, the civil service reminds human resource departments of companies to avoid reserving job openings to insiders. This after an applicant complained to the CSC that their application to a position was rejected in favor of a supposed insider. CSC Commissioner Eileen Lizada said applications must be based on merit and fitness. Applicants with job-related complaints are encouraged to email or text the CSC's contact center. In other news, the public is warned against engaging in any activity with the so-called Federal Tribal Government of the Philippines. The National Commission on Indigenous Peoples said the group is not recognized as a representative of the IPs by the agency or any of its affiliates. The group made headlines when it demanded the dismissal in 72 hours of all the cases filed against Kapa Community Ministry. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
Still to come, the administration is hopeful that the Freedom of Information Bill will be passed in 2020. Authorities in Parañaque shut down 18 Chinese establishments for lack of papers. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Ito ang Duterte on Duty. Ulat sa ginagawa ng Presidente. June 4, Martes, Holosulu. Binisita ni Pangulong Rodrigo Roa Duterte ang mga sundalo sa Camp Teodulfo Bautista at pinarangalaan ang mga nasugatan sa engkwentro kontra Abu Sayyaf noong May 31 sa Patikul, Sulu. June 6, Huwebes, Davao City. Pinangunahan ng Pangulo ang selebrasyon ng Eid al-Fitr.
Allow me to take this moment to assure you that this administration will endeavor to preserve the fragile peace that we have built in this region that I call home. Allow me to take this moment to assure you that through the National Commission of Muslim Filipinos, we will consistently uphold the rights and welfare of all Muslim Filipinos, and for that matter, for all Filipinos.
June 10, Lunes, Pasay City. Nag-surprise inspection ng Pangulo sa NAIA Terminal 2 nang mabalitaan ang mga reklamong delayed at cancelled flights. Malacanang. Nakipagpulong siya sa mga opisyal ng Philippine Health Insurance Corporation o PhilHealth. Kinagabihan ay pinulong naman niya ang kanyang gabinete para sa 38th Cabinet Meeting. June 12, Miyerkules, Lanao del Sur. Pinangunahan ng Pangulo ang pagdiriwang na ika-121 anibersaryo ng Araw ng Kalayaan. June 13, Huwebes, General Santos City. Ipinamahagi ni Pangulong Duterte ang mga Certificate of Land Ownership Award sa mahigit 13,000 agrarian reform beneficiaries sa Region 12. Ako po si Secretary Martin Andanar at ito ang Duterte on Duty. Abangan sa susunod na linggo ang mga gagawin ng Pangulo.
PCOO Undersecretary Lorraine Bado issued a strong statement against the Communist Party of the Philippines and its armed wing, the New People's Army. She says these terrorist groups have used the poor and sown chaos to further their agenda. More on this from Rom Dulfo.
The Presidential Communications Operations Office, or PCOO, denounced the Communist Party of the Philippines, or CPP, and its armed wing, New People's Army, for keeping the poor poorer and the Philippines in deep chaos. In a speech before members of the U.S.-Philippine Society, PCO Undersecretary Lorraine Badoy said the CPP-NPA stands to gain most by obstructing progress. She said the communist terrorist group has wounded the Filipinos' psyche by teaching hate and mistrust against even the most sincere and hardworking public servants. Badoy notes the extensive organizational structure of the CPP-NPA and the National Democratic Front of the Philippines has infiltrated all sectors of Philippine society. This structure uses the poor and the indigenous peoples to ask for funds from unwitting international organizations and governments which are fed patent lies about the country. These donations are in turn used to fund terrorism and poverty in the country. Badoy said communists use alternative schools to turn IP children into child warriors, as well as steal their cultural concepts to fit their agenda. Badoy also notes that the CPP-NPA has reached U.S. shores and is responsible for spreading false and made-up data about the Duterte administration, such as the 30,000 deaths from extrajudicial killings. Regarding the defeat of left-leaning groups in the recent midterm elections, Badoy attributes this to the whole-of-nation approach of Executive Order 70 or EO70, signed by President Duterte to end insurgency. EO70 seeks to prioritize and harmonize the delivery of basic services and social development packages in conflict-affected areas and vulnerable communities to attain inclusive and sustainable peace. It also led to the creation of the National Task Force to end local communist armed conflict. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Rom Dulfo.
The Duterte administration is hopeful that the Freedom of Information Law, or FOI law, will be passed by 2020. This was announced by PCOO Assistant Secretary and FOI Program Management Office Director Christian Ablan during the 2019 FOI Mid-Year Conference on Wednesday. Ablan also reported that for the first half of 2019, there is 100% FOI compliance from national government agencies. In addition, 92% of government-owned and controlled corporations, or GOCCs, are FOI compliant, while compliance rating is at 94% of state universities and colleges and 41% for local water districts. Ablan also shared that by next month, the executive branch is set to submit its updated draft of the FOI bill to the incoming 18th Congress. The new draft would include a no wrong door policy, which would require the receiving agency to assist and guide all FOI filers to appropriate offices. This new provision is expected to lessen the denial of information requests. The military slammed leftist group Karapatan on Tuesday for its efforts to claim the remains of an NPA leader slain in Panaytayan, Oriental Mindoro last June 13. The fatality was identified as Bonifacio Magramo alias Eboy, Secretary of the Sub-Regional Military Area 4E in Palawan. He was positively identified by a certain Lornabeth Mapalad Galos from Barangay Kaligtasan, Bungabong Town, and sister to the deceased. Meanwhile, Karapatan Southern Tagalog is also claiming the body on behalf of Jessica Baez Alcos, daughter of the slain person, whom they insist to be named as Victor Alcos. The leftist group have accused the AFP and PNP of harassment over the claiming of the body. The 203rd Infantry Battalion Commander, Brigadier General Marceliano Teofilo, said Karapatan is claiming the body for itself to hide the death of a high-ranking NPA leader, which may demoralize the communists. Curimao Town in Ilocos Norte inaugurates a new farm-to-market road. Meanwhile, indigenous peoples in Antique introduce their herbal medicines to the local market. More on these and other news from the provinces from Janice Cabe.
In Ilocos Norte, a 52 million peso farm-to-market road was inaugurated on Tuesday. The project is seen to primarily benefit mango growers in the area, along with rice, corn, and tobacco farmers, among others. The farm-to-market road is funded under the Philippine Rural Development Project. In Antique, indigenous people communities are set to receive the shared service facility on traditional herbal medicine from the Department of Trade and Industry. Iraynon Bukidnon Chairman Abel Pedro said they can now produce herbal medicines such as liniment or ointment to be sold to the local market, as they could already go into mass production of herbal medicines. In Davao, the Philippine Coconut Authority is working on distributing about 690,000 coconut seedlings to registered coconut farmers in Region 11. This is an initiative under the Accelerated Coconut Planting and Replanting Project, which will replace aging and damaged coconut trees with new varieties. It also aims to encourage more farmers to plant coconut trees and boost production. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
The Parañaque City government has ordered the closure of 18 Chinese-owned or managed restaurants and business establishments found to be operating without the necessary permits or violating local ordinances. Chief of Parañaque's Business Permits and Licensing Office, Melanie Soriano Malaya, said on Tuesday that most of the establishments were in barangays Tambo and Baclaran. Malaya noted that the establishments were operating without business permits and in violation of the city's sanitation and environment codes. They have also violated the local city ordinance mandating businesses with foreign signs to provide an English translation. These closures are part of Parañaque Mayor Edwin Olivares' crackdown on airing establishments and reports that Chinese businesses catering only to Chinese citizens have been proliferating in the city. An airline company is urging ASEAN countries to set up terminals dedicated to low-cost carriers or LCCs. AirAsia Philippines Government Policy and ASEAN Group Head Desiree Bandal said Tuesday, low-cost carrier terminals are necessary to win and retain the services of LCCs. She said these carriers have different needs from full-service carriers which use tubes or air bridges. She cited the Narita Airport, which opened a dedicated low-cost carrier terminal in 2015. It has now exceeded its 7.5 million passenger capacity in 2018. Meanwhile, a couple of airport officials said they can cater to the needs of low-cost carriers even without a dedicated terminal. According to Mactan Cebu International Airport Authority CEO Steve Dikdikan, airlines should educate their market on what to expect when flying on LCCs. He said some passengers, including politicians and persons with disabilities, complain about using the stairs instead of the tubes or bridges. Up next, the Philippines joins South Korea in paying tribute to the veterans of the Korean War. The Office of Civil Defense and DILG called on relatives of the victims of the Marawi siege to claim their benefits. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Hey you! Sorry you couldn't make it to the Philippines, but it's okay. We haven't been up to much. There's just no escaping the heat. All we do is take showers. We're always on the move, yet we keep getting lost. We can't wait for the day to end, so we can just stay in at night. I'm kidding! We're having a blast. We haven't stopped eating and partying all day. Plus, we've made a bunch of friends. The only thing that would make it better is if you were here too.
In our foreign news, Korean Prime Minister Lee Nak-yeon on Tuesday paid tribute to the fallen heroes of the Korean War for their great sacrifices in defense of freedom and democracy. Lee led the historic celebration of the 69th anniversary of the Korea War at the Jangchung Stadium in Seoul. He cited the gallantry of the Koreans and the Allied forces who fought against the Chinese and North Korean soldiers who invaded them. South Korean ambassador to the Philippines, Han Dong-man, recognized the vital role of the Filipinos during the Korean War, as the country sent over 7,000 soldiers when the war broke out on June 25, 1950. A delegation led by retired Lieutenant General Ernesto Carolina of the Philippine Veterans Affairs Office is expected to arrive in Seoul on Friday. Back in Manila, the Philippine Philharmonic Orchestra and the Seocho Philharmoniker of Korea shared the stage in the Korean War Memorial Peace Concert at the Cultural Center of the Philippines. In sports, more members of Gilas Pilipinas have joined the practice session for the FIBA World Cup. 13 players trooped to the Meralco Gym in Pasig on Monday night to practice for the international competition. The highlight of the practice was the arrival of CJ Perez and Robert Bolick and the return of Kiefer Ravena. Japeth Aguilar, Raymond Almasan, Mark Barroca, Poy Eram, Junmar Fajardo, Marcio Lassiter, Paul Lee, Roger Pogoy, and Troy Rosario also came in attendance. Stanley Pringle also made a surprise appearance as well. Coach Yang Giao said this is the team's first complete practice. Gabe Norwood, who was in the first two training sessions, took the Monday off this time, while Scotty Thompson already declared that he's begging off from Gilas duties. Northern Italy was chosen as the site of the 2026 Winter Olympic Games. The hosting will be held in Milan and Cortina. International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach announced that Milan and Cortina in Italy will share the hosting of the said Olympic Games during the 134th session on Monday. This after Italy beat Sweden's Stockholm 47-34 in a vote by 83 IOC members. Giovanni Malago of the Italian National Olympic Committee expressed his gratitude for selecting Milan and Cortina. He said he is very emotional, as this is very important not only for their committee but for the whole country as well. This will be the third time for Italy to host the Winter Olympic Games. Cortina was the first Italian city to host the Games in 1956, and Turin staged the event in 2006. Families of 94 civilian casualties of the Marawi siege are set to receive cash assistance. Sweet Lukman has a story.
The Office of the Civil Defense Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao and the Department of Interior and Local Government, Marawi, are now calling the relatives of the 94 officially traced civilian casualties during the Marawi siege to process and claim the government cash assistance. City Director Norhani Maromsar of DILG Marawi said the financial assistance is now ready and available for the death claimants provided they submit the complete requirements as assessed by the OCD BARMM. Since 2017, DILG Marawi has been locating the relatives of those whose deaths were related to the siege. Maromsar said the OCD ARMM informed them that not only those families and relatives of 94 individuals officially listed could claim the financial assistance after all legal documents are presented to the office. The families of those who died not only in the hospitals but also in the evacuation centers or inside Marawi City can apply for the financial assistance. Maromsar shared some of Marawi residents have already submitted the requirements for death claim. However, Maromsar said they were not able to contact and inform them about their lacking documents because there is no way to communicate with them. DILG Marawi and OCD BARM, through the barangay officials, have pursued any means of communications to connect with the families of those civilian casualties during the siege. Unfortunately, not every applicant has submitted the complete requirements, Maromsar explained. To confirm the death claim, the following should be submitted. Death certificate, if not original, must be authenticated. Certification as IDP by CSWDO Marawi or Barangay, profile of the claimant, joint affidavit of two disinterested persons to establish or attest to the filial relationship between the deceased and the claimant. Maromsar said the barangay officials had already done their part in informing the relatives of the civilian casualties, but some of these families are already staying away from Marawi. As of the moment, the submission of the required documents of death claim is ongoing. The local official urged all families of siege victims died from the period of May 23, 2017 until second quarter of 2018 to visit the DILG Marawi office or the Task Force Bangon Marawi and look for the OCD BARM personnel. DILG Marawi is in close coordination with the OCD BARM regarding this matter. For PNA Newsroom, Sweet Lukman, Philippine Information Agency.
Reserves in Angat Dam will likely remain below the critical level this week, even if Tropical Depression Dodong brings rains. Pag-asa said most of the expected rains will be over the western sections of Luzon, and the rest that could reach Angat will likely be light rain showers. Pag-asa reported that Angat Dam's 6 a.m. water level on Tuesday at 158.77 meters, way below the 160 meters critical level and the 180 meters minimum operating level. A tropical cyclone that will bring continuous rain to Angat totaling some 360 millimeters can increase its reserve. For July 2019, Pag-asa expects 2 to 3 tropical cyclones inside the Philippine area of responsibility. Dodong is expected to leave the Philippine area of responsibility tonight. Meanwhile, let's check out the weather forecast for Metro Manila and the rest of the country. Here's another look at today's biggest stories.
President Duterte expresses support for charter change over pushing for a federal government. The administration is hopeful that the Freedom of Information Bill would be passed in 2020. Defense officials study the possibility of lifting martial law in Mindanao. And the Philippines joins South Korea in paying tribute to the veterans of the Korean War.
Thank you for watching another edition of the PNA Newsroom. To check out these and other stories, visit the PNA website or follow the Philippine News Agency on Facebook and Twitter. For more stories about the government and how it serves the Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. And that's your daily dose of the latest news and information that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. I am Miguel Hill. Good day.